Hello, welcome back to my channel, or welcome for the very first time. This is the Books of Morgan, and I'm Morgan. Today I'm going to be talking about my Smutathon Wrap-Up. I know it's been a couple of days, maybe more than a couple, since Smutathon wrapped up, but my life has been chaos. Things have been happening. I haven't gotten around to doing my wrap-up, but I did do a lot of reading. So I have a lot of books to share with you, and my reviews of those books as well. I read a total of 6 books in 1 week. And that was what I intended, and I honestly only thought I would be able to read like 4 or 5, so I'm very impressed with myself. I actually finished the readathon early. It ended on Saturday, and I think I finished it on Thursday or Friday. Like, I was reading. Like, I was a reading machine. I was knocking these books out. Like, we're killing it. Morgan is such a good reader. And then it took me 5 days to finish the book that I just finished today because life is crazy. I'm in my last semester of school, like ever, and then I have to be a real adult and figure that BS out, and I don't want it. Literally, my calendar is just filled with like things to do. And I hate it. I don't like being busy. Like, I want to just be my introverted little self and like not have any responsibilities and not do anything but like say la vie. But anyways, enough about my personal life. You probably don't care about that. You want to hear about my books. So I'm just going to start with the one book that I don't have with me. In fact, it's not even on my Kindle anymore because it was a library book. But I read and finished Call Me By Your Name by Andre Aciman? Oh, that doesn't sound right. I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but Call Me By Your Name. It's a very famous movie, also a famous book, and that fulfilled the prompt of an LGBTQ plus smutty book. And you know what? It was really good. So I gave Call Me By Your Name 4 stars, which is a pretty good rating. Like, I'm very critical of books and I don't give out 5 stars like randomly, so it takes a lot for me to get a 5 star. And I know everyone loves Call Me By Your Name. It's a great book, whatever. My problem with Call Me By Your Name was not like anything that is substantial, which is why I gave it 4 stars rather than 5, but I didn't love like how introspective it was. Like, there wasn't a lot of dialogue in the book. It was all just like these feelings and like blah 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 blah. But I just like wanted to know more about why the main characters like fell in love. Like, it just wasn't really explained. I understood their attraction to each other. That was talked about a lot, but like everything was just kind of left out in the open. It was just very much like, this is how I feel about him. Like Elio, and I don't remember the characters' names, but I was just like, yeah, like it was good. Also the peach scene. We're gonna talk about that. Like, if you've seen the movie or read the book, like, you know what I'm talking about. I was like, damn, I was not expecting that smut. Like, that, wow, that was vivid. I will not, like, I feel like I saw it happen, even though I read it. But it was just so vividly written that I was like, I felt like I was there, and I didn't want to be there because it was a lot. But I definitely appreciated the book as a whole. I think it is very good. I lived in Italy for a few months when I studied abroad, so getting like taken back to those like places. They went to Rome for a few days and I lived in Rome, so like he was talking about streets that I've walked down and like the alley scene in Rome, like on that street, like there's a really good restaurant on there that I went to a couple times. Like, it was like really nostalgic feeling for me, so I appreciated that. But yeah, I gave Call Me By Your Name 4 stars. I thought it was pretty good. So the next book I read was Priest by Sierra Simone because, like I said in my TBR video, I wanted to read something like Fleabag, you know, a romance with a priest, and this fulfilled the prompt for a forbidden romance, obviously because it's with a priest and then a woman, which is not what's supposed to happen. I gave this book 3 stars, honestly, because there's there's no plot in this book. Like, the fact that he's a priest and she's just a lay person, like, that's it. Like, that's the plot. And, like, yeah. Like, there's not, like, any really grappling, like, story points, or, like, there's this inner conflict with, like, him being a priest, but, like, he just brushes it aside, basically. He's like, I've been abstinent for 3 years. Like, I'm chaste. I can't have sex. And then he has sex. So, like, it was resolved within the first, like, 100 pages, basically. Like, yeah, he was a priest and he had sex. And then the reason I gave it 3 stars is because the smut scenes were so smutty. Like, Sierra Simone can write smut, and I appreciate that. Like, I was like, this is unique, interesting positions, but, like, I don't know. It was good. It was a good time. It fulfilled the needs that I wanted in Smutathon, so, like, that's why I gave it 3 stars. Like, I'm not reading this to learn about, like, dynamics between, like, priests and their abstinence and, like, temptations, and, like, I wasn't looking for a book like that. I was just looking for smut. So it was a good book. I gave it 3 stars. Is it the next great American novel? No. But was it entertaining and smutty? Yes. So that's why I gave it 3 stars. Okay, so the next book I read was literally the worst book I've read this year. And I know it's only January, but, like, it's probably gonna be on my worst books read for, like, ever. So I'm pretty upset about it. So the next book that I read was Intercepted by Alexa Martin, and this fulfilled the prompt to read something that's out of your comfort zone. And it was out of my comfort zone. I don't care about football. And I was like, okay, but it's a smutty book, so maybe it's gonna be more smut than football. This book is basically basketball vibes, but, like, football vibes. Like, this is more like a reality television show than it is smutty. Like, if I wanted to read about trashy, like, women fighting over, like, sports or whatever, like, I would turn to VH1 or MTV or Bravo or whatever. Like, I don't know. Like, this was not good. And the women were catty. The dialogue was bad. I just didn't like this book because it didn't focus on the smut. The romance happened so, like, bizarrely and, like, weird timed. Like, I don't know. It was just, like, not my cup of tea. I gave this book 2 stars. And the only reason I gave it 2 and not 1 was because I did like the male love interest. Like, I thought he was really cool, I guess. I don't know. I just, the cattiness really got to me. And when there was, like, sex happening, it faded to black. So it wasn't, like, super smutty, and that was disappointing. So yeah, I would not recommend this. There's 2 other books in this, like, playbook series. I'm not gonna read it. It's not good. So the next book I read, I didn't have on my TBR, but I substituted for a different book. I was binging Dr. Oakley, Yukon Vet, and it's a show on Disney Plus, but it's actually a National Geographic show. And I was, like, watching this veterinarian, like, work in the Yukon and Alaska, and I was just, like, feeling the vibes. I was like, yes, mountains, yaks, muskox, like, all these cool caribou. I was into it. I was having such a good time, and I was like, I want to be back in the mountains. So I reread The Simple Wild by K.A. Tucker. I was originally going to reread Well Met, but then I was like, you know what? The Simple Wild is so good, so I have to reread it. This fulfilled the prompt for enemies to lovers. Oh my god, this book is so good. I read it last April. It hasn't even been a year since I read it, but I had to reread it. Also, the sequel is coming out in March, so, like, I have an excuse to reread this. So good. If you haven't read this book, you need to read it. It follows Calla, who's from Toronto. Well, she's originally from Alaska, but then when she was, like, a baby, she moved to Toronto with her mom. And then she finds out her dad has cancer and he lives in Alaska, so she goes back to Alaska to see him and meet him because they have, like, an estranged relationship. And there's this bush pilot named Jonah, and it's their romance, and oh my gosh, I love it so much. It is so good. Yeah, that's all I'm gonna say. Like, Jonah can get it. Like, he's hot. Like, in my mind, he's this like sexy like mountain man with like beard and like, oh my gosh, my type. Love it so much. I gave it 5 stars. Again, just so good. If you haven't read it yet, please do. Please do. It's so good. It is so good. Especially if you love that enemies to lovers trope. Like, their banter back and forth is just so good. Like, I love it so much. The next book I read was an ebook, and it took me by surprise. I was not expecting to love this book, and I honestly thought it was going to be a 3-star read, but then I started reading it and I was like, wait, this is actually really good. And so that is The Kiss Thief by L.J. Shen. This fulfilled the prompt for fake dating / marriage. This is an arranged marriage novel, so I guess it counts. At least I think. Like, fake marriage. Well, I don't know. I'm gonna count it in that prompt. So yeah, I read The Kiss Thief, and it begins by the author giving you like a playlist of music to listen to when you read it, and at first I was like, oh god, this is happening. Ugh, I don't know. I hate when authors do that. Like, don't tell me what to listen to when I'm reading this book, because I can tell you I have a way better music taste than you. Also starts off with a Leo Tolstoy quote. Like, come on. Really? Yeah, there's a soundtrack, and the songs on here are from Lana Del Rey, Hozier, like Amy Winehouse, Sinead O'Connor. I was like, no, this is not happening. But, oh, and this dumb poem that I read, I was like, this is bad. But then I started reading it, and I got really into it. Like, it follows this young girl who is the daughter of this like large mafia family. But in the book, Italians did this like arranged marriage situation. So like people are like trying to court her and trying to like get an arranged marriage with her. And she's like a very beautiful woman and blah, 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 blah. Then her arranged marriage is with this senator who there's some background knowledge with him and the mafia and like this whole thing, and it's so good. Like, I gave it 4.5 stars, guys. Like, I almost gave it 5, but like the dumb poem in the beginning and then the ending, I was like, whatever. But the rest of it was so good. The sexual tension, the sexual chemistry, like, so good. And I really do like how L.J. Shen dealt with the topic of virginity, because I feel like there's so many authors out there who just like approach virginity from like such antiquated perspectives, and I really liked the way that she dealt with it. It felt more modern, even though it's kind of like a far stretch with like the Italian mafia and stuff like that. And it does take place in Chicago, which I appreciated because I live in Chicago. But anyways, I enjoyed it. I like loved the romance. I loved like where, I don't know, they were just so good. The thing is like there is an age gap. She's 19 and he's 30. And they do talk about that. And I think it's dealt with really well. Because I've read age gap books before and it's not always dealt with well. I thought this one was just perfectly fine. So if that's something you're weary about, I think it does handle it. They acknowledge it and they do talk about it. So yeah, that is that. Okay, so then I have one more book to talk about. This is the last book that I read for the readathon, and that is The Professor by Charlotte Stein. I'll hold it up for you. This book was odd. I gave it 3.5 stars. Yeah, 3.5 stars, which I think is kind of generous for me. It does follow this college student and her writing erotic stories for her professor, basically. What happens is that she has a writing assignment. She turns in her story of erotica, and then he's like, actually, all the other papers you've given me have been horrible, but this one erotic story is really good. So then he's like, I want you to come to my office at every day at 5 p.m. so we can talk and do like more stories together. And then they have this really strong attraction to each other. Like, there's some interesting like masturbation scenes, and stuff like that, but they don't act on their feelings when they are professor and student. So as soon as he realizes that he has feelings for her, he leaves. He like flees to Belgium. And yeah, I'm not kidding you. He goes to Belgium. And then he's like, I can't be with her. But then they start writing each other letters. And these are not letters from like they're not like, hey, what's up? Like, I had a really great day today. I ate a sandwich and like wrote more erotica. It's like they speak in 19th century dialogue. It is so bizarre. And I'm like, no one writes like that. Like, no one even writes love letters anymore. I mean, if they do, cool. But like, if they do, they're not writing in 19th century Gothic language that Nathaniel Hawthorne would be writing in. Like, no, like, that's weird. So that's why I knocked it down a star. I was like, this is not reasonable. But then she like goes to Belgium, they get together, and there's this whole thing where like he doesn't want sex unless it's in like a public situation, which is odd, which is why I knocked it down another 0.5 stars. I was like, that's weird. But I enjoyed my time reading the book. Like, it was fine. But yeah, there were some different elements in there that I wasn't expecting. Took me for a little bit of a journey. The dialogue, again, 19th century language. I was like, what am I reading? But it was decent. I gave it 3.5 stars. I didn't hate it. So yeah, if you're interested in like professor-student relationships, this one is definitely unique. I would recommend it if you are looking for professor-student romances. Actually, just kidding. If you're looking for an amazing professor-student like relationship book, My Oxford Year by Julia Whelan. One of the best books I've ever read in my entire life. Best romance book ever. Like, it's so good. I'll probably reread it in the next year or two. Like, this is my favorite. I love it. It's so good. And my favorite professor-student, not my favorite book of all time. But if you're looking for something good, don't read The Professor by Charlotte Stein. Read this one. But yeah, that is my entire wrap-up for the Smutathon Readathon. I am hoping to participate in more readathons in the future. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you want to see more videos from me, hit that subscribe button. Thanks for watching. Bye!